Indigenous Voices, a podcast that highlights the perspective of indigenous peoples of the world. Welcome to the 7th episode of Indigenous Voices, a podcast created by the FSC Indigenous Foundation. Today we will talk about the rights of indigenous women in Africa, the forms of violence they face, and their proposals to build alternatives for economic empowerment to address community and global problems. To go deeper into this topic, we are joined by Agnes Leina, Indigenous leader and defender of the rights of women and girls. Agnes Leina is an Indigenous leader from the Samburu People of Kenya. For over 15 years, Agnes has been dedicated to defending the rights of Indigenous peoples, especially rural women and girls. Her work has focused on promoting human rights, the right to education, land and natural resource rights, access to alternative livelihood options, and the eradication of violence against women, early marriage, and female genital mutilation. Agnes is the founder and executive director of Ilaramatak Community Concerns, an Indigenous peoples organization whose main objective is to restore the dignity of Indigenous peoples, with special emphasis on girls and women. She is also the gender coordinator of Indigenous Peoples of Africa Coordinating Committee and a member of the academic advisory board of the Global Indigenous Women's Forum. She is currently working at the community, national, regional, and international levels with different communication structures and strategies. In Kenya, indigenous peoples are mainly nomadic pastoralists and hunter-gatherers. Pastoralists are estimated to comprise 25% of the national population, while the largest single community of hunter-gatherers numbers approximately 79,000. Pastoralists mainly occupy the arid and semi-arid lands of northern Kenya and along the border with Tanzania in the south. The hunter-gatherers include the Ogiek, Senwer, Yaku, Wata, Awir, Boni peoples, while the pastoralists include the Turkana, Rendil, Borana, Masai, Samburu, Ilkamus, Somali, Gabra, Pokot, Endorois, and others. The Samburu are located in northern Kenya and maintain a traditional lifestyle. Agnes, welcome to Indigenous Voices. It's an honor to share this space with you. We want to start this episode by talking a little bit about you. Tell us about who you are and how you have become such an important advocate for the rights of Indigenous women in Kenya, especially for the younger ones.
Thank you for this chance to be able to come and speak about Indigenous people, Indigenous women and girls. And as you've already heard, thank you for explaining the kind of work that I do. I started this organization in 2011. And the main reason why I started it is to concentrate and zoom into women and girls' issues. Because I, having grown up as a pastoralist young girl myself, I totally understand the issues that they go through. Having grown up in the region of northern Kenya in Samburu County in a place called Baragoi among the Turkana and Samburu community, I completely understand the challenges that they go through. So that is one, and then I got married in the south. So I, at the moment, I am my residence is in Kajiado Central, which is southern part of Kenya. So I came from the north and settled in the south. So married to a Maasai person. So now that's why I'm here in Kajiado. So I started this organization in 2011 to concentrate on issues of girls and women. And the reason why I started it is because I realized that pastoralist women have been left behind. and they have so many challenges that are affecting them. So that is why I started this organization, so that I can be able to do what I know I can do best and what I know my people deserve or need. Sometimes when you are in employment, you do what your employer wants. But when you start a program like this, you do what you know because you are from that community, and you do what your community want because they're the ones who know what they need more than other people can explain. So Laramatta Community Concerns works with women and also works with girls. The challenges that the girls here face is early marriage and female genital mutilation. It is the biggest form of violation of violence against women that they are facing. A very young girl is circumcised at the age of, these days, even younger, at the age of 6, 7, or 8. But earlier than that, it was the age of 13 and 14. And then married off immediately to a person she doesn't want to marry, she doesn't love, it's decided for her by her parents. Married to a person who is even older than her own father or same age as the father, or always older, as a second or third or fourth marriage for the wife. And we just realized that women do not deserve all that. Young girls do not deserve all that. I went to Northern Kenya last week to talk to women and girls. And among us was a very, very, very young girl. She was, I think, 13 or 12, and she already had a baby. So before I began the meeting, I told my friend, can you please tell the small girl to go, because we are going to talk about women. This is about women. She needs to either be in school or somewhere. To my surprise, I was told, no, she is a woman. She is married. She even has a baby. It was so heartbreaking. I mean, we are in 2022 now. Some of these cultures should be ending by now, or should have ended by now. But we just realized that we are still having them. And it is the reason why I even encourage most pastoralist women, just begin something in your village, because one person can never end these problems. And one person can never be enough. The more of us doing this, the better, so that we can emancipate the pastoralist woman or the pastoralist girls. So that is why I started this kind of organization. Another thing that we do is to make sure that they go to school. I am a believer of education. I believe that with education, the girls will learn that, for instance, female genital mutilation is not necessary, and they do not have to go through it. With education, for instance, the girls will learn that they do not have to get married at the age of 12, at the age of 8, at the age of 9. With education, the girls will learn that they can marry a person they want at whatever age. And with education, they can even dictate the number of children they want to have. And that is why I feel education will liberate our women. Education will liberate our girls, so that they are not stupid. They have a mind. They can think for themselves. They can decide for themselves. And another thing that we do is to train women. And especially right now in Kenya, we are on a political year, an electioneering year. In a few days, we will be going to select women into leadership positions, men and women into leadership positions. One thing that I believe in is that women should actually be able to select other leaders. Women need to sit in political leadership positions. And once they are in those political leadership positions, they are able to make decisions. If you are not in the decision-making table, what do you expect? Why would you expect things to be decided to favor you? Unless you are on that seat, unless you're on that table, everything will be decided and you will be left behind. So we are encouraging women to be elected. And when they're elected in positions of leadership, they are able to make decisions that will favor them, decisions that will favor their daughters, and decisions that will favor their own children and families. So this is why we started this organization.
That's a very powerful story. You have talked about some issues that we will talk about later. We know that securing the rights of women and girls is one of the most important global challenges, and that even though there have been many achievements, there is still a lot to be done. Tell us, what kind of challenges have you faced along the way, and how have you managed to overcome them?
First of all, there is a cultural barrier because the culture says girls must be circumcised in order for them to get a husband. In our culture, when a girl is circumcised, she is told, wake up, go, now you are a woman. I mean, a woman at the age of 8, a woman at the age of 9, and a woman at the age of 12, and a woman at the age of 14. What kind of a woman is that? That is a child. As I mentioned about the little girl who was in our meeting, she has jumped a whole lot of process in her entire life. She will never know what it is to be an adolescent. She will never know what it means to be a child. She will never know what it means to be a girl, because she jumped from being a child to a mother and a wife. And those are the kind of violations that we want to eradicate. And so that is one of the biggest challenges. When culture says, now you are a woman, then she is circumcised, then she has to go and become a woman. If she is in school, she will start behaving like a woman because she's been told she's a woman. She will even drop out of school and go and get married because she's a woman. She wonders what she is actually wondering, what am I doing in class? And I'm already a woman. So right there, you have a clash between education and culture, because culture says this is a woman, but education says this is a girl. So we have all that particular challenge. Another challenge that we have is lack of funding. We would want, as an organization, to reach all the 17 pastoralist counties that we have in this country, but it is impossible. You can only reach 1 or 2. And why? Because you cannot go everywhere for lack of funding. You wish everybody can start a small initiative wherever they are, and they get funded for it so that they can continue. But unfortunately, that's not the situation. You want to make sure that all the girls that you rescue from early marriage and female genital mutilation go to school. But you don't have the money to do that. Right now, we have over 20 girls who have never reported to go to Form 1 because they do not have the money. And I do not also have the money. I have tried the much I can. And this year alone, we have sent like 30 of them to school. But we still have to continue. So that is also a challenge. That is a very, very big challenge. And then, of course, we have things like climate change is also a big challenge. Because when you say you have rescued this girl and you want her to go to school, then boom, you have a drought like now. With this kind of drought, girls will drop out of school to go and fetch water for their mothers. They will drop out of school to go and fetch firewood for their mothers. There is no way you can imagine going to school when you know your own mother is suffering. And it's not just for the girls, it's even for the boys. The boys need to go back to school, but they realize that the cows and goats need to be driven to a safer place where they can have green pasture. So those are challenges that we go through as pastoralist communities. And then, of course, the geography, and most pastoralist communities live away from the main centers of urbanization. And urbanization alone is such a confusion for our culture, and it erodes our culture, and the so-called urbanization and even modernization. There's parts of culture that we obviously want to leave behind, but there are some parts of culture that we would want to continue with. And so then that right there you have a clash, because then you modernization says this, and then culture says this, education says this. So there's a big confusion right there.
Thank you, Agnes. Women usually face many challenges in defending our rights, and Indigenous women in Kenya are no exception. You were already telling us about this. Traditional Indigenous women in Kenya have faced many forms of violence, such as female genital mutilation and early marriages. How will you describe the current context for women and girls?
Yeah, we have so many challenges when it comes to violation of women. Female genital mutilation is just one of them. We have defilement also. We have quite a number. There's also defilement, because just like any other community, for sure, when a girl is married when she is young, because we also have laws that prohibit female genital mutilation, and we have laws that prohibit early marriage. And when a girl is married at the age below the age of 18, and she goes to sleep with that husband, directly from our law, that is defilement. So we are facing defilement as a form of violence. We also have domestic violence. Domestic violence especially escalated recently during COVID. With COVID-19, there was lockdowns and all those things that you know that are happening in the whole world. There was no food, there was no work, people were forced to stay at home. The husbands could not go and work, the wives could not go and work. So this really escalated the gender-based violence. And especially even now with the election year, one thing leads to another. Recently we had the pandemic, and now again we have the elections, and then we have the drought. And all these come with various forms of violations. And now again with the elections, it is expected that gender-based violence will also be escalated. And why? Because in most families, the man is the one who decides who will be voted in. So, and he takes the voting card and the identity card of the wife, and say, you are going to follow what I want. I am the one to decide who is going to be voted in this home. And you are going to vote who I decide as the head of this family. And in most cases, if the wife says no, she will be beaten, given a thorough beating. So already gender-based violence, physical violence, domestic violence right there. On domestic violence, and of course, with early marriage, you're giving out a very young girl like that, she'll go and sleep with that man. This is directly defilement. So domestic violence, defilement, sexual violence, harassment are all the kind of forms of violence that women go through, even among Indigenous women. Women go through all forms of gender-based violence, but as Indigenous women, we suffer double violence, or even sometimes triple violence. And so we really need to be protected, or better still, we need to protect ourselves.
Thank you, Agnes. It is very shocking to hear these stories and experience. Now, Agnes, would you say progress has been made regarding their rights? Has the percentage of women suffering mutilation decreased?
Yes. Oh, yes. In 2011, there was a law that was passed by Kenya. It's called the Female Genital Mutilation Prohibition Act. And luckily, because of the work that I do, I was appointed to that board. So there was a board that was formed. It started actively its work in 2014. And I was very lucky to be appointed in that board. It was a presidential appointment, so I was very lucky to be a founding member of that board. And by the time the board was formed, or even before that, there was a demographic health survey that was done, KDHS. And by that time, a place like Kajiado was 78% on female genital mutilation. Another KDHF has been done right now. We are waiting right now as we talk. And so we are waiting for the report. Then by 2014, the statistics came down from 78% in Kajiado to 71. Right now, as we talk, I am certain that it has come down to 60 something, if not 50 something, because we cannot keep putting the statistics of the older women. We will put the statistics of the younger women. So because of the law that has just been put in place, and we are serving in the board, that has also decreased. It has come down a little bit. And because of the existence of organizations like mine and others, the statistics of the female genital mutilation has come down because we are now talking about it. In the past, if you talk about female genital mutilation, you'll be told to shut up. But now we have broken that silence. Now what we need to do is to break that cycle. The cycle must be broken. We still have pockets of female genital mutilation happening because, as you know, it's a cultural practice and people don't like to leave their cultures. They love their cultures and they will just do anything to protect their cultures. So definitely that has come down. As for domestic violence, and let me say even just physical violence, it had come down because again of we have a Sexual Offences Act and we have the Penal Code. We have all these laws, but people don't implement them. That had come down. Let me put it that way. It had come down until COVID arrived. During COVID, all the gains that we had in all these fights just were completely reversed because people started staying at home and then gender-based violence started rising. You could go nowhere, you will not report anywhere. We even feel that even female genital mutilation and early marriage just reversed back. So we are now trying again to build back better to see whether we can now again revive that. So yes, I can say because of the work that we are doing, because of the sensitizations, because of capacity building, it has come down. There is a lot of work that we are putting, and thanks to all that, things are happening and people are getting to know. The silence especially has been broken. It's no longer a taboo to talk against female genital mutilation. It's no longer a taboo to talk about domestic violence. So somehow now we can say that we're somewhere. We're not where we were before. There are a lot of strides, but yet again, there's so much work that needs to be done. We cannot rest and say, oh, we're done. No. We have to continuously go on.
Despite the law against female mutilation, which has been enforced in Kenya since 2011, according to a study published by World Vision in 2021, there is an estimated prevalence of the practice of 94% among the Pokot, 95% among the Samburu, and 98% in Somali communities. Female genital mutilation is also practiced among the Maas speakers, in addition to the Samburu, although it happens and is done in secret. Cases only come to the light when the victim dies from a large hemorrhage. Focusing a bit more on the issue of rights, tell us specifically about your work with young women. How are you helping to empower them and strengthen their roles in their communities?
Okay, first of all, I will start by saying how we arrived at working with young women. First, the ages that we work with. First of all, we work with primary school girls, which is the age between 7 and 13. And then we work with secondary school students, which is the age between 14 and 19. And then we work with university students, which is the age of 2019, they are about to 24. And we have a number of other young women who have never gone to school and who are married off. So when we talk about the young girls, first, if I may start with the girls who are in school, we do two major things for them. We sensitize them to stay in school. The program is called Keeping Girls in School. By providing sanitary towels, because that too is a very big problem. If a girl does not have sanitary towels, she might skip classes for the 2 or 3 days that she'll be having her menstrual periods. And if you count that, those are so many days per month, and those are per term, and so those are so many days per year. So girls are losing out. So we provide sanitary towels. Also, as an organization, together with other networks, we have fought and made sure that the prices of sanitary towels is brought down, because it's not her fault that she has periods. So, and we also fought to make sure that sanitary towels are free in schools, and that has also been granted for us as civil society organizations that work for Indigenous women and for girls. And then the other thing that we do for the girls in school, apart from giving them what we call dignity packs, it's a dignity pack, has in it the sanitary towels, it has soap, it has toothbrush and toothpaste, it has sneakers, it has comb, just a few basic things for the girls in a backpack. And then, and of course, sanitary towels and tissue papers. And then the next thing that we do for the girls to keep them in school is to pay for their school fees. That is the monster in the room, because nobody gives a grant for paying school fees. So we do this through our own friends of Laramata Community Concerns. So we get to make sure that they go to school through the people who pay for our school fees. And then at least we keep them in school, and then they finish secondary, and then they go to university, and then we look for them to find them jobs. Now, when it comes to women who have never gone to school, we have a group of young women, and the whole aim, for the ones who are in school, the young girls, the aim is to keep them in school. And for the young women, the aim is to break the cycle of early marriage, female genital mutilation, and domestic violence, and economic violence. And how do we break the cycle? I'll give you an example. These are young women who were circumcised when they were young, and then they were told, now go, you are women. And then while they are in school, they got pregnant, because they don't understand what they're still doing in school. So if you are circumcised, you are told you're a woman. So what kind of a woman are you in school? You need to get out and be a woman, go and build your own house, go and get your own husband. And so that is the reason why they get out and go and get married and become pregnant. So once a girl is pregnant, her father will find a suitor for her, and then she gets married. So we have about 45 of them in our group. And all these young women got married when they were 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And one of them who gave birth when she was 14 years old. Now, the 14-year-old that she gave birth to had her own babies last year. About this time, she had twins at the age of 14, making her a grandmother at the age of 28. So we have the youngest grandmother at the age of 28. And for the little girl I was telling you, we saw last week in Marsabit, she gave birth at the age of 13. And if the little girl she gave birth to at the age of 13 gives birth at the age of 13, that will make her a grandmother at the age of 26. So that is what we want. That is the cycle we want to break. So, and when we break this cycle, when we formed this group, now what the women are embarking on, they are embarking on economic empowerment so that they can have their own money in their own hands. To make sure that these women make beads and sell them, we look for people who can come and buy their beads. They make mats, we sell them, we look for people who can come and buy them. then they have their money. They can control their money. And that also will end domestic violence, because she doesn't have to every time be going back to the husband and say, please give me money for sugar, give me money for soap, give me money for sanitary towels. Then she has her own economic empowerment. She has her own money. She can pay school fees for her children. She can buy clothes for her children. She can buy food, the kind of food she wants. She can have a guest in the house and make tea, because if she didn't have, then she will have to be asked, okay, I bought sugar yesterday. Where did it go to? But if she has her own money, she will say, no one will ask her, why did you have guests to make tea or food for? But she has her own economic freedom, financial freedom. So that is the kind of thing that we want for the young women. Another thing we want for them is to make sure that the children they gave birth to will not be circumcised the way they were circumcised. They will go to school. They will learn. They will marry whoever they want to marry, and they will not be forced to marry the way they were married of themselves. So this is what we want for our young women. This is therefore the aim, is a generation of young women who will not go take their girls through FGM, female genital mutilation, early marriage, and economic disempowerment. So this is a cycle that we want to break through a group of young women. They also are the ones right now, schools have closed. So we will call them to come and talk to their daughters, to come and talk to their girls, to come and empower them. And when they come there, they use themselves as examples. Say, don't do as I was doing. Don't get married the way I was married off when I was young. So they use their own example to help the small girls who are now in school. Most of them are their own daughters.
Thank you, Agnes. Having a voice is such a fundamental right. You have talked to us about the challenges that women face in your country, but we would like to know what are the main challenges that young Indigenous women in Kenya are currently facing.
Young women, like for instance, if I were to give an example of the young women in the ones that the group of 45 that I have in my organization, I think I have already talked about the young women who are in school. If I may start with those, because I always start with those ones. And the ones in school, as I said again, the biggest challenge is to keep them in school because they do not have school fees. Right now, as I said, I have over 20 of them who are faced by early marriage if I do nothing, because they've not gone back to school. And the parents were here even on Sunday, even yesterday, and saying, Agnes, if this girl does not go to school, her father has a man, a husband ready for her. And that really pains my heart. So those are some of the challenges that girls go through. We do not have enough. And now we even have a new minister, and he has actually subsidized the school fees payment. It's now 35,000 a year, which is really, really affordable, but it's still out of reach for most families because they cannot afford it. And that's why I was saying that women need to have their own money, because then they can pay school fees for their own children. So that is a very big challenge at the moment for us, to keep those girls in school. And then for the young girls who have finished, the young women who have finished university, the biggest challenge for them is jobs. And that's why, as an organization, we have a resource center where we want to build their skills, and they don't have to wait for white-collar jobs. Then they can actually build their skills and start businesses for themselves and be self-employed, so that they can have their own money already. They can start having their own money. We just got into a partnership with another organization that says Girls First. No, not Girls First. That they called Being Purposeful. The Purposeful organization. It's you give them money and let them make their own decisions on how they will spend that money. We have started that project with a group of just 10 young girls who finished secondary school, 19 years up to 24 years, young women of that age. And so, as you can see, again, it boils back to economic empowerment. Economic empowerment is the biggest backbone that will make these women actually move from where they are to the next level. And in the same case to our young women, the one I was telling you, the 45 of them, they have a number of projects. They have agricultural projects. They will make food. they plant food, and they have mats that they're making. They're making mats and they're earning from it. They're making beads and they're earning from it. Now what we need for them is huge market. We just need them to know where can they sell that food. And then most of them also talk about they need family planning, empowerment, so that they can have fewer children and they can be able to make that decision. Because again, among our communities, it's the man who decides how many children you will have, and they will decide that you will not go through family planning and contraceptives, because, so we have, for the young women program, we have a lot of training on sexual and reproductive health rights. So that's also a very, very big need for them. And of course, empowerment, all types of manner of empowerments, especially economic empowerment.
In relation to the previous question, and considering the latest reports on the social impacts of climate change, could you explain how this phenomenon affects Indigenous women?
Yeah. In fact, Indigenous women are most affected by climate change, and especially what I call pastoralist women. Because right now, we don't have green pasture, we don't have water. So, and Indigenous women are the nurturers. I always say, nurturers of society. And they're the ones who take care of their families, and therefore they take care of society. And so they need to take care of nature if they are to nurture it. So Indigenous women, therefore, are the ones, by nurturing society, I mean they're the ones who therefore take care of their families in terms of food, in terms of firewood, energy. So women are the ones who must wake up in the morning to go and look for firewood to cook food for their families. Women are the ones who must wake up in the morning to go and fetch water to cook food for their families and to clean. So they provide all that nurturing for their families. And they're the ones who are most affected by climate change, because they're the ones who make use of all the things that I'm talking about. Women also, again, among pastoralist communities, are the ones who build their house. And they use sticks, from nature, from natural sticks, from the forest, to make their houses. Again, they will therefore need those sticks all their lives to be able to make shelter for their families. And during drought, like now, right now, as we talk, there is very, very huge drought. So women are working for hours and hours to fetch water. In other places, they will walk up to 4 hours one way, and then 4 hours another way, just to fetch 20 liters of water. And that 20 liters of water will only be enough for something very small, because you need to wash clothes, you need to eat food, you need to clean up the utensils. That water is not enough. And most pastoralist communities do not have running water. So all those hours that they spend could have been spent doing an economic activity that will bring something productive for them. But unfortunately, 4 hours to fetch only 20 liters of water is too much. And if they have to fetch two of them, 20 liters, twice, then that means 16 hours. And so you will end up spending the whole day doing just one thing. So definitely they're stressed up, they are tired, and they have so much again remaining for them to do. By that time, she has not even fetched the firewood. And again, firewood, as you may know, has a lot of repercussions on their health, especially the respiratory tract infections, and then eye diseases. It comes with all that. And so, and all that again is because of climate change. And we're talking about clean energy, but pastoralist women are still far from it. In as an organization, we have started providing biogas for the women, so that they do not have to work for so many hours to go and fetch firewood. but we can only do so much. And it is also very, very expensive. So definitely Indigenous women go through hell during drought because of all the things that I have just mentioned. And along the way, some of them will be attacked either by wild animals, and some of them may even go through sexual harassment and, and defilement or even rape on the way. So all these challenges are brought about by climate change.
How do you think Indigenous women in Kenya can contribute to climate change adaptation and mitigation?
And one of them is the making of the beads. That's our adaptation program. Because during drought, definitely you have no milk to sell, but you still have to sell something in order to feed your family. And so they make beads. Very, very beautiful necklaces and very, very beautiful bracelets to sell. I call them non-climate dependent because the beads will always be there during drought and during rainy season. They will always have the beads and they will always make them. So, and then something new that they make these days again is mats, doormats. It used to be, that is completely away from us as pastoralist communities because we've never had as women anything else other than our own beads because that's what we know. And now we have a new skill called doormats, and we make them and sell them. So we are trying to introduce adaptation activities to the women. You know, this is what I call community-based adaptation, community-based solutions that women themselves decide.
Thank you, Agnes. Your work and your fight for women's rights are really important to the country and to the whole world. To end this episode, we would like to ask you what message will you give to the people listening to this podcast?
To the people listening to this podcast, I would say you must have heard now that we have talked about the challenges. No one wants to live with challenges. That's why we always rush to say, how can we mitigate? How can we remove? And how can we solve the challenges? But the challenges are there also to make us think. So you must have heard about the challenges that Indigenous women are going through. And I am so certain that these challenges that I've mentioned here in terms of even gender-based violence and economic violence and poverty and all that are the same ones that can be echoed by other Indigenous women. The same thing that others are also going through. So what I can say is that as much as possible, let us hold each other's hands. Let us help each other. For me, again, I put education as number one. I feel that the things that I said can be eradicated will actually be eradicated through education. And so hold our hands as we take these girls to school, hold our hands as we preserve the best part of our culture. It has not been affected by modernization at all, but education will help us to remove the parts that we know we do not like. And in terms of even climate change, we have water justice, or rather water injustice. Women must not walk in 2022 for 4 to 8 hours to look for water. Women, just like any other woman elsewhere, Indigenous women also deserve running water in their homes. If there is someone out there who is ready to help Indigenous women in Kenya to solve water justice, we will appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing this space with us. We know that your work will contribute to the improvement of the living condition of women and girls and will help empower them to face all the challenges of the present and the future. The FSC Indigenous Foundation and the IPAR program seek to co-create innovative sustainable solutions that guarantee the rights of Indigenous peoples and promote holistic self-development according to their context, needs, and aspirations. We invite you to listen to the next episodes of Indigenous Voices, a podcast that highlights the perspectives of Indigenous peoples worldwide. Don't miss our next episodes. Learn more about the FSC Indigenous Foundation and its work with Indigenous peoples around the world through the website www.fscindigenousfoundation.org and in its social media FSC Indigenous Foundation in Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.